Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. My life as a high school junior was mostly uneventful. I was Casey, the kind of kid who preferred the background, a stark contrast to my twin sister, Zoe, who was the star of every room she walked into. Our worlds were so different, yet we shared an unspoken bond, the kind only twins could understand. It was a Thursday afternoon when Zoe fell ill just 2 days before her date with Ethan, her boyfriend. I remember watching her face fall as she realized she couldn't go. Ethan was the kind of guy everyone liked, charming and kind, and Zoe had been looking forward to their date for weeks. In a surprising turn of events, Zoe hatched a plan. "Casey, what if you went as me?" she asked, half joking. At first, I laughed it off, but then, seeing her disappointed face, something inside me stirred. Maybe it was the desire to help her, or perhaps just curiosity about stepping into her shoes, literally. The plan was simple, yet daunting. I would dress up as Zoe, meet Ethan, and pretend to be her for the evening. It seemed far-fetched, but the thought of pulling off such a feat was oddly thrilling. So I agreed. The first step was choosing the outfit. I rummaged through Zoe's wardrobe, bypassing her blue dress, which was too conspicuous, and settled on an elegant floral dress. It was soft and flowy, with a pattern of pink and white flowers that seemed to dance on the fabric. Slipping into it, I felt the smooth material against my skin, a stark contrast to my usual jeans and t-shirts. Next came the wig. Zoe's hair was a beautiful shade of brunette, long and wavy. I found a wig that matched it almost perfectly. As I put it on, I looked in the mirror and was surprised at the reflection staring back at me. The wig transformed my appearance, softening my features and framing my face in a way that was both strange and fascinating. The most challenging part was the makeup. I had never realized how much skill it took to apply it. Zoe guided me through each step, from the foundation that smoothed out my skin to the mascara that made my eyes stand out. I learned about lipstick, how to apply it without smudging, and how it added a pop of color that changed my whole face. Then came the high heels. Walking in them was like learning to walk all over again. I stumbled at first, but slowly I began to understand the balance and grace required. Each step was cautious, measured, as I practiced walking around Zoe's room. As the transformation progressed, I noticed the small details. How the earrings felt against my neck, the way the dress swayed with each movement, the faint scent of Zoe's perfume that clung to the clothes. It was like stepping into a different world, one that was both foreign and intriguing. Zoe coached me on her mannerisms and how she spoke. I practiced her laugh, the way she tilted her head when she was curious, and even the subtle nuances of her voice. It wasn't just about looking like her, I had to embody her essence. As I stood there, fully transformed, I felt a mix of emotions. There was excitement, yes, but also a sense of uncertainty. I was about to step into a role that was completely out of my comfort zone. I looked at Zoe, who gave me an encouraging nod. She seemed confident in my ability to pull this off. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the window. It was almost time to meet Ethan. My heart raced with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. "Remember, just be yourself. Well, me," Zoe said with a chuckle. I smiled, adjusting the wig one last time. Here goes nothing, I thought to myself as I stepped out of Zoe's room, ready to embark on this unexpected adventure. As I walked down the stairs, the sound of my heels clicking against the floor echoed through the house. I was no longer just Casey. For the next few hours, I would be Zoe. As I looked in the mirror, I could hardly recognize myself. Dressed in Zoe's clothes, with her long brunette wig and makeup, I felt like I was someone else. It was strange but exciting. I had to remind myself I'm still Casey, just looking different. Shaving my body was a new experience. I was used to the quick shave of my face, but this was different. I carefully shaved my arms and legs, feeling the razor glide over my skin. It was a bit scary at first, but I got the hang of it. The smoothness of my skin afterwards was surprising. I rubbed my hands over my arms and legs, amazed at how different it felt. Next came the makeup. Zoe had left me her makeup kit with instructions. I started with the foundation, a creamy liquid that made my skin look even and smooth. It was tricky to get it just right without making it look too thick. Then I carefully applied the mascara, a black substance that made my eyelashes look longer and fuller. It took a few tries to get it without smudging it everywhere. The lipstick was the last step. I chose a pink shade that Zoe said was her favorite. It felt weird to put it on, the slick texture sliding over my lips. But when I looked in the mirror, it brought the whole look together. I almost didn't recognize myself. Dressing up in Zoe's clothes was an adventure. The floral dress I had picked was pretty, with flowers and a soft, light fabric. It felt different from my usual jeans and t-shirts, lighter and more flowy. I turned around in front of the mirror, watching how it moved with me. I tried on a pair of Zoe's earrings, small silver ones that dangled. The cool metal felt strange against my neck, but it looked right with the outfit. I never knew how much these little details could change how you look. The hardest part was the high heels. They were black and a bit taller than I expected. Walking in them was like learning a new skill. I wobbled at first, trying to keep my balance. After a few tries, I started to get the hang of it, but it was still tricky. I practiced walking back and forth in Zoe's room, trying not to trip. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. I saw Zoe's dress, her wig, and her makeup all on me. It was a lot to take in. I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. I was about to go on a date as my sister, something I never thought I'd do. "Remember to be gentle with the wig," Zoe reminded me as I was about to leave. She had been helping me get ready, showing me how to act and speak like her. "And don't forget to smile," she added with a laugh. I nodded, feeling a bit more confident with her advice. I took a deep breath and looked at the clock. It was time to meet Ethan. As I walked down the stairs, the heels clicking on each step, I felt a rush of different feelings. I was nervous about meeting Ethan and pretending to be Zoe, but also curious about how it would feel to be someone else for a night. I reached for my purse, a small, cute bag that Zoe had lent me. It felt odd to carry a purse instead of my usual backpack. I checked to make sure I had everything: phone, wallet, and a small mirror, just in case I needed to fix my makeup. Stepping outside, the cool evening air felt different, almost refreshing. The street was quiet, with only a few cars passing by. I walked to the corner where Ethan and I agreed to meet, my heart beating fast. I kept practicing Zoe's voice in my head, trying to sound like her. I stood at the corner of the street, my heart racing as I saw Ethan approaching. He was wearing a nice shirt and jeans, looking just like Zoe had described him. As he got closer, I felt my stomach do a little flip. This was it, the moment I had to be Zoe. "Hey, Zoe, you look beautiful," Ethan said with a big smile as he reached me. His voice was friendly and warm. I had to remind myself to respond like Zoe would. "Hi, Ethan, thanks, you look great too," I said, trying to match Zoe's cheerful tone. My voice sounded a bit different, but Ethan didn't seem to notice. We started walking towards the restaurant for dinner. I was careful with each step, not wanting to trip in the high heels. Ethan talked about his day, and I listened, nodding and smiling. I remembered how Zoe told me about her conversations with him, so I tried to talk about similar things. The restaurant was a small, cozy place, not too crowded. We found a table and sat down. I was careful to sit gracefully, just like Zoe had shown me. The waiter came over, and we ordered our food. I chose a salad, thinking it would be easier to eat. Eating in front of Ethan was tricky. I had to remember to take small bites and not to mess up my lipstick. I kept thinking about how Zoe would do it, trying to copy her. As we ate, Ethan talked about a movie he had seen recently. I listened, laughing at the right moments and asking questions. It felt a bit weird, pretending to be someone else, but Ethan seemed to enjoy our conversation. After dinner, we decided to go for a walk in the park. It was a nice evening with a gentle breeze. Walking through the park, I noticed how the dress swayed with each step. The park was peaceful, with a few people walking their dogs or just enjoying the evening. Ethan held my hand as we walked, which felt strange. I wasn't used to holding someone's hand like this. But I kept walking, smiling, and talking. I was getting more comfortable pretending to be Zoe, but there was still a nervous feeling inside me. We stopped at a bench and sat down. The night was quiet, with only the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Ethan was talking about his plans for the summer. I listened, nodding, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about how different this all felt, how I was seeing things from a new perspective. The time passed quickly, and before I knew it, it was time to go home. Ethan walked me back to the corner where we met. "I had a great time tonight, Zoe," he said, smiling. "Me too, Ethan. Thanks for a lovely evening," I replied, still in Zoe's voice. Inside, I felt a mix of relief and excitement. I had done it. I had gone on a date as Zoe, and Ethan hadn't suspected a thing. As Ethan left, I stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath. The night was quiet, with a few stars visible in the sky. I started walking back home, my mind full of thoughts. I had experienced something totally new, something I never imagined I would. The walk home was quiet, and I felt a bit tired from the evening. But there was also a feeling of accomplishment. I had stepped into Zoe's shoes, seen a part of her world, and it was nothing like I had expected. When I got home, Zoe was waiting for me. "How did it go?" she asked eagerly. "It was interesting," I said, smiling. I told her about the dinner, the walk, and how I managed to act like her. Zoe listened, laughing at some parts and looking surprised at others. "I can't believe you pulled it off," she said, still smiling. "Yeah, me neither," I replied, taking off the wig and feeling my own hair again. It felt good to be back to myself. We talked for a bit more, and then I went to my room. The night had been a big adventure, something totally out of my usual life. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Last night, as Zoe had shown me a whole new side of life. Lying in bed, I thought about the date with Ethan, how it felt to walk in high heels and to talk and laugh as someone else. I got out of bed and looked at myself in the mirror. There I was, Casey, just a regular high school kid. But now I had this secret experience, something no one else knew about. It made me think about Zoe and her life, how she saw the world and how others saw her. Breakfast was quiet that morning. Zoe and I exchanged looks, but we didn't talk much about last night. It was like we both had a lot to think about. Mom made pancakes, and we all sat around the table, eating and chatting about simple things like the weather and our plans for the day. I couldn't help but notice the little things. How Mom talked to me and Zoe, how she expected us to act, and how different it was from last night. It was like I had a secret window into Zoe's world, and now I was back in mine. After breakfast, I went to my room and sat at my desk. I thought about Ethan, how he had held my hand, and how he had looked at me, thinking I was Zoe. It made me feel strange, like I had stepped into a part of Zoe's life that was very personal. I wondered what it would be like if Ethan knew the truth. The rest of the day was normal. I did my homework, played video games, and helped around the house. But my mind kept going back to last night. It was hard to shake off the feeling of being Zoe. I even caught myself walking a bit differently, remembering the feel of the high heels. In the evening, Zoe came into my room. "Casey, can we talk?" she asked, sitting on my bed. I nodded, turning off my game. "Thanks for doing this for me," she said, looking a bit shy. "I know it was a lot to ask, and it must have been weird for you." "It was interesting," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I learned a lot." Zoe smiled, then looked serious. "Do you think Ethan noticed anything different?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, he seemed to have a good time, but Zoe, it was really strange to be you. It's hard to explain." Zoe nodded, understanding. "I guess it's not easy stepping into someone else's shoes, even if it's just for a night." We talked a bit more about school, friends, and normal stuff. But there was this new understanding between us. I had seen a part of her life, and it had changed the way I saw things. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about what it means to be yourself. I'd been someone else for a night, and it was fun, but also really weird. It made me appreciate my own life more, the simple things like my room, my clothes, and my own way of doing things. I also thought about Zoe, how she dealt with things every day, how she talked and laughed, and how she was with Ethan. It made me respect her more, seeing how she navigated her world. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a quiet kind of happiness. The next day at school was like any other day, but with a big secret in my pocket. I walked through the halls, seeing friends and going to classes, but my mind kept going back to the date with Ethan. It felt like I was carrying around a big, invisible book filled with stories nobody else knew. At lunch, I sat with my friends, eating and talking about the usual stuff, games, homework, weekend plans. But then, something unexpected happened. Ethan walked over to our table, a surprised look on his face. "Hey, Casey, can we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice serious. My heart skipped a beat. Did he know? How could he? We walked to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. Ethan looked at me, his eyes searching. "I saw Zoe this morning," he began. "She's feeling better, but she seemed a bit confused about our date." My stomach felt like it was filled with jumping frogs. I had to tell him the truth. "Ethan, about the date," I started, my voice shaky. Just then, Zoe appeared. She walked over to us, a brave look on her face. "Ethan, I have something to tell you," she said, taking a deep breath. "It wasn't me on the date with you, it was Casey." Ethan's eyes widened in shock. "What? Casey?" He looked at me, then back at Zoe. "But why?" Zoe explained everything. How she was sick, how she didn't want to cancel the date, and how we came up with the plan. I stood there, feeling small and awkward, but also relieved that the truth was out. Ethan was quiet for a moment, taking it all in. Then he did something surprising. He laughed. "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard," he said, shaking his head. "I can't believe you guys did that." Zoe and I exchanged glances, not sure how to react. But then Ethan smiled. "It's okay. I mean, it's weird, but I'm glad you told me. Honesty is important." We talked a bit more, Ethan asking questions about how we pulled it off. He was amazed at how well I had imitated Zoe. It was a strange conversation, but it felt good to have everything in the open. The rest of the day went by in a blur. People whispered and pointed, the news spreading like wildfire. But Ethan, Zoe, and I stuck together, facing the whispers and stares as a team. After school, the three of us sat at the park, talking. "I guess we all learned something from this," Zoe said, looking at Ethan and me, "about honesty and about how it feels to be in someone else's shoes." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I never would have guessed how much goes into being someone else. It's kind of amazing." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace. The adventure had been wild and a bit scary, but it had brought us all closer. "I'm just glad to be back to being Casey," I said. As we walked home, the sun setting and casting a warm glow on everything, I thought about the whole experience. I had pretended to be Zoe, learned a lot, and shared a secret adventure. But in the end, I was happy to be myself, with my own life and my own stories to tell. We said goodbye to Ethan and went home. Zoe and I laughed and talked about the day, feeling like we had shared something special. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. It was a wild ride, but it taught me a lot. I should do this more often. Being a girl is fun. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.